Welcome in, football fans. Today we're taking a look at the NFL trade deadline, which comes next week on Halloween, and there figure to be a whole lot of tricks and treats before we get there. The Eagles kick things off with a trade for Tennessee Titans safety Kevin Byard, PFF's highest graded safety in coverage over the last 3 seasons, and there should be many more moves before next week. We'll start off with the edge defender group, where a handful of big-name players could be on the move. The first and most obvious name here is Carolina Panthers edge defender Brian Burns. The Los Angeles Rams offered 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick for Burns' services last year at the deadline, but the Carolina Panthers declined. Flash forward a year, the Panthers and Burns were unable to reach agreement on a contract extension, and Burns, a guy who has 50-plus pressures, 9+ sacks the last 3 seasons, is once again playing good football on an 0-6 roster in Carolina, a team that does not have a first-round pick this year. Maybe the Panthers are willing to listen this time around, and we think the Carolina Panthers could do very well here, adding a first-round pick plus, maybe not 2 firsts and a second, but certainly a first plus for Carolina. Some of the teams we think make sense here, teams that are looking for an outside linebacker build. Look, the Jacksonville Jaguars have 2 first-round pick edge defenders in Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker. However, they need more juice off the edge. They have not gotten enough production there. Maybe they can kick Trayvon Walker inside on pass rushing downs, something he did a lot at Georgia, and maybe they're willing to make a splash. In the last year, where Trevor Lawrence is playing on that rookie deal, he could get big money this offseason, so why not make a splash now? The next team we think could be interesting here is the Baltimore Ravens. They've had some good production from young players. Odafe Owe returned for their latest game against Detroit and made a few splash plays, but second-round pick from last year, David Ojabo, is dealing with an injury. Tyus Bowser, their edge rusher to linebacker flex, is dealing with an injury as well. And while they have gotten great production out of free agent acquisitions in Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy, maybe the Baltimore Ravens are once again, just like last year with Roquan Smith from the Chicago Bears, willing to make a big move here and add Brian Burns. We'll throw in the last team here. Look, the Houston Texans are off to a very hot start, sitting at 3-3 in their bye week right now. Will Anderson Jr. looks the part of a 3rd overall pick, but opposite of him on this defensive line, there has been very little production. Maybe Houston, with general manager Nick Caserio, who has been as active as anyone the last couple years, wants to make yet another splash, upgrade this team, and try to compete now with a rookie contract quarterback that looks incredible so far through 6 weeks. The next situation we're monitoring is in Washington, where there are 2 players in Montez Sweat and Chase Young that are both heading into contract years. Look, Washington could try to extend one of these guys before the franchise tag deadline, but if they don't, they're going to lose a premier pass rusher, a first-round pick, for a compensatory pick at best. So maybe they realize, hey, it is in our best long-term interest to get as much as we can in a trade haul for one of these players while we can. For Chase Young, had a gnarly injury to his knee that kept him out for the better part of 2 seasons, but has been exceptional this season, looking like a number 2 overall pick. He is top 10 in pass rush win rate, top 10 in pressure rate, and the game that impressed me the most, going into a Thursday on short rest with that knee injury, had 11 pressures and a 37% pass rush win rate against the Chicago Bears on Thursday night. He looks healthy, he looks explosive, he is making plays every single week, and he could be a guy that a whole laundry list of teams could be interested in adding. I think the Detroit Lions are interesting to monitor here, with the Baltimore Ravens, the Houston Texans, the Chicago Bears could bring him in and try to add some juice off the edge. This is all about competing to get a guy and not letting him hit the free agent market, bringing him into your building, getting to know him, and probably trying to extend him before he even reaches the offseason. I think a lot of teams are calling the Washington Commanders this week. Chase Young is a very attractive asset, and the leverage here is not great in Washington's favor, so I'm sure teams are calling that Washington front office. Another name we're keeping an eye on here is New York Jets edge defender Carl Lawson. Lawson's a good player, a productive player, and after tearing his Achilles in 2021, Lawson came back in 2022 and had 49 pressures, 8 sacks, and a 73 pass rush grade. He has been phenomenal when he's healthy, but the issue here is the New York Jets depth chart is as deep as any across the NFL at edge. They have first-round pick from last year, Jermaine Johnson, who looks to have taken that second-year leap. They have rookie Will McDonald, who's working his way into the rotation. And of course, we cannot forget to mention undrafted gem Bryce Huff, who led PFF in pass rush win rate last year, is right at the top of that list again this year, and is playing more and more on early downs, gaining faith, gaining trust from his coaching staff. Lawson's just the odd man out, but could add a ton of value to a lot of teams. The Detroit Lions jump at the top of this list here. They need more edge rush opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. You can move Lawson around a little bit. He's a big body. He can stand up. He can put his hand in the dirt. He can do a lot of different things. And the Lions, after that embarrassing loss to the Ravens, they just did not get any pressure on Lamar Jackson, or certainly not enough to alter him and his passing. And he was phenomenal in that game. Another team we're keeping an eye on here is the Las Vegas Raiders, who apparently have been looking to add more edge rush opposite of Max Crosby. Rookie Tyree Wilson has come along very, very slowly, and this team needs more juice up front. Lawson would be a great fit. He's cheap for his production. He's a good player. It's simply a matter of a guy just being buried among a very talented room. Final name we'll mention here at edge rusher is New England Patriots pass rusher Josh Uchi. New England's coming off a big win against the Buffalo Bills, but Uchi is in a very interesting situation. The former third-round pick is a very, very productive edge rusher, had a 56 pressures, 12 sacks, and a 21% pressure rate last year, was the number 2 mark among edge defenders, but played about 370 snaps. He's never played 400 snaps in a season, and even you look at this year, Matthew Judon goes down, and Uchi still plays around 20 snaps a game, does not have this roster's faith on early downs. Look, he's in a contract here. The Patriots are clearly in a rebuild, and as productive as he's been, maybe the team thinks, hey, it's going to be hard to find a value for where we think this guy is worth, what he thinks he's worth, given his role on this team. He's a smaller outside linebacker. I think a team like the Seattle Seahawks could make a ton of sense here. They lost Uchenna and Nwosu to a season-ending pectoral injury. He's been by far their best pass rusher. They've seen some growth from Boye Mafe, the second rounder from last year, but if they want to add more juice off the edge, even in a more limited role, Josh Uchi could be a great fit in Seattle. That is one we love as a potential move. We move on to the wide receiver market, where a handful of players, both depth options and legit starters, could be on the move in the next week. We'll kick things off in Denver, where 2 players, former first-round pick Jeudy and former second-round pick Cortland Sutton, could be on the move, as Denver has fielded calls for the last year plus, and they seem to be very open to moving one of these 2 players, especially with the growth of Marvin Mims, their second-round pick this year, who's been remarkably productive whenever he gets the football. So, with Jeudy, we know he's been mired in controversy the last week or two after a run-in with Steve Smith Sr., but you look at last year and he kind of flew under the radar. Had a top 30 receiving grade, was 6th in yards after the catch per reception, around 6 yards, and was top 15 in yards per route run at 2.1. He's been productive. He's a big body that can separate. You can line him up in the slot. You can play him out wide. He's sure-handed. He's a good football player in the right situation with full focus. He's been healthy the last 20 some odd games or so, and he could be a big boost for a handful of teams. Now, Carolina may not be in the mix. We know Ian Rappaport of NFL Media mentioned they were looking into wide receiver help. Maybe he's not the best option now with that whole Steve Smith situation, but what about the team that picks second in this draft? The Houston Texans with CJ Stroud. He's been a revelation. They have some good players there. Nico Collins in a contract here. Rookie Tank Dell. Robert Woods, the wily veteran. Maybe they add a big-time piece here, bring in Jeudy, and push that offense to new heights. That is an interesting potential landing spot for him. A couple other teams that could be in the mix for Judy's services. First, the New York Jets had Corey Davis retire before the season began. Garrett Wilson's been incredible. Every part of the billing of a former top 15 pick, but adding another piece for Zach Wilson and eventually Aaron Rodgers obviously has the connection to Nathaniel Hackett. I mentioned how productive Jeudy was last season. Maybe they make a splash, get another offensive piece in New York. One more, the Indianapolis Colts have Michael Pittman in a contract year. Second round pick from last year, Alec Pierce, has been that deep threat, that field stretcher. Not a ton of production so far. And rookie Josh Downs is coming off a career game with 100 plus yards, a touchdown. He was awesome against the Cleveland Browns, who have shut down every opponent. But maybe the Colts, even with Anthony Richardson on the mend, bring in a young receiver, a guy that has a very cheap 5th-year option for next season of right around $13 million, and continue to build around the future with Anthony Richardson. The other Denver Broncos wide receiver in Cortland Sutton had one of the highlight catches of the entire NFL against the Kansas City Chiefs on Thursday night, a remarkable snag in the left corner of the end zone, illustrating what he does best. He is one of the best contested catch jump ball wide receivers in the entire NFL, and it's been that way pretty much since the day he entered the league. He has 3 years remaining on his contract. He's been productive, leads the team right now in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdown catches. But nevertheless, Denver is clearly in the middle of a rebuild. They got to start over a quarterback. They got to retool this defense that is bottom of the league in pretty much any metric you can find. And as good as Sutton is they have Marvin Mims. Maybe they right the ship with Jerry Jeudy, and they're willing to move Courtland Sutton. We again think the New York Jets are an interesting potential team here. I mean, Corey Davis left a void in that contested catch area. Maybe Courtland Sutton fills it. The next guy on our list here is Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver Hunter Renfrow, who clearly is not in the long-term plans of this franchise. Back in 2021, he had an 100-plus catch, 1,000-plus receiving yard season, and since then has a fringe top 100 receiving grade and just doesn't really see the field. Even when Jacoby Myers missed time with a concussion this year, and when Devontae Adams has missed snaps with various ailments, you don't see Hunter Renfrow play all that much. He had just 5 snaps through 3 quarters against the Chicago Bears before, playing a little bit in garbage time, but just is not really in their offense for whatever reason. So what you're getting in Hunter Renfrow is your classic slot receiver, early in the shot clock separator. He's as sure-handed as they come. You can find him over the middle, is that check down outlet for quarterbacks that a lot of them would probably love to work with. He's just not as in the Raiders' long-term plan. So who could make a move here? We mentioned the New York Jets for a couple other options. We think he makes sense there as well. Randall Cobb is dead last in the NFL right now in yards per route run, has not been a solution for them out of the slot, also has the highest drop rate in the NFL. So why not bring in Hunter Renfrow, build some confidence in Zach Wilson, see what you can get there. Another team, a team that is always active at the deadline, the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, they have 2 of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL, maybe the best duo going right now in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, but they've dealt with some injuries in the slot in their third receiver room. Maybe they want to bring in that underneath player. They do have Dallas Goedert in that role a lot, but Jalen Hurts has been so accurate, so on time, so on schedule. Sometimes those shot plays aren't always going to be there. Why not let Hunter Renfrow rack up a ton of yards after the catch, be that sure-handed guy? When those 2 guys on the outside are creating a ton of room, he could make a lot of sense in Philadelphia as well. Next on our list is Carolina Panthers wide receiver Terrace Marshall, who has already received the right to go out and seek a trade. Him and his agent are looking around the league to find a new home for him as Carolina continues to bring in more and more receivers, drafting Jonathan Mingo, signing DJ Chark, signing Adam Thielen. You've just seen up and down usage from Terrace Marshall. In week 4, he had 9 receptions. In week 5, he played 0 offensive snaps. So he just does not seem to be a fit in this offense for whatever reason. And he's been very productive when he does play. You look at 2022 on targets 10 plus yards downfield. He had 18 receptions for 380 yards. He had 6 contested catches. He forced 2 missed tackles, only had 1 drop, and had 117 passer rating when targeted on throws 10 plus yards downfield, a top 20 mark. He's a good field stretcher. He's a good after the catch player. He's shifty. He's athletic. We think teams like the Los Angeles Chargers could certainly use that skill set in their offense. They make a ton of sense as they're trying to work their way back from a 2-4 start. Maybe the Dallas Cowboys want another piece there. Michael Gallup has been again a little bit up and down, had some drops so far this season, has not been a particularly reliable target for Dak Prescott. Maybe those 2 teams get in the mix here. It would make a lot of sense. Last but certainly not least at the wide receiver position is New York Giants receiver Parris Campbell, a free agent acquisition on a 1-year flyer, coming off a great bounce back season with the Colts, finally got healthy, a guy that ran a sub-4 440, was a 2nd round pick for the Colts and could never get healthy, but has been durable and has been productive dating back to last year. You look at the first month of this season in New York, he was up there in snap share, up there in target share, but with the emergence of rookie Jalen Hyatt, with the return to health of 2nd round pick from last year, Wan'Dale Robinson, Parris Campbell has played very few snaps the last couple weeks, and there are just too many bodies in the interior of this offense at the slot receiver position. So again, where could he fit? We again think the Los Angeles Chargers could make some sense here. Rookie Quentin Johnston is not in the top 15 for receptions or receiving yards among all rookie wide receivers. They of course lose Mike Williams for the year. Yes, you have Keenan Allen taking a lot of snaps in the slot, but he's more than capable of playing out wide, so they make a lot of sense. We've mentioned the Philadelphia Eagles as a team that could continue to add. There are a handful of teams, even as a depth piece, a depth option, could benefit from the presence of a Parris Campbell. One final trade deadline name we simply have to talk about is Tennessee Titans running back Derrick Henry. The Titans traded safety Kevin Byard to the Philadelphia Eagles, and with Ryan Tannehill still nursing that ankle injury, they look like they're open for business. Henry is not only one of the best running backs of the last couple of years, but one of the best to ever play the position. And over the last 3 seasons, with everyone expecting the tread to fall off those tires, he has the most yards after contact in the NFL with 2,300, the most rushing touchdowns with 26, and he's top 5 in missed tackles forced and explosive runs of 10 plus yards. The king is still churning, and you better believe there are teams lining up for his services. We think teams like Baltimore, with a bunch of injuries at running back, maybe the Dallas Cowboys are willing to get in there and have a 1-2 punch of Derrick Henry and Tony Pollard. The Cleveland Browns dealing with that Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford injury. We think teams are probably lining up to see if they can get King Hank on their team.